Hey, Nicotine. Thanks for bringing up consciousness again. Um, but I don't think that you um, really got to what I see as the difficulty of how we are to define the relationship between the brain and conscious experience. Um, what you're attempting to do is reduce our lived um, embodiment or our felt sense of experience to the mechanical activity of the brain. Um, and you're talking about causality as though the only thing that could be causing consciousness is the brain. Um, Materialist science has a very narrow definition of causation, however. It basically only means efficient causation or mechanical causation. Aristotle defined four types of causes, of which efficient was one. Um, but when it comes to consciousness, what we're trying to explain is that sense of agency which we have, and also that sense of receptivity, of sensation that we have. So there's both an active and a passive element uh, to our conscious experience. Now, to reduce that to efficient causation as an explanation for consciousness, we've got to ignore what it is that we're trying to explain in the first place, because mechanical causes can take place, exchanges of forces can take place without any experience, when viewed in abstraction at least. Um, but conscious experience is not a mechanical exchange of forces. It's a lived sense of awareness and agency. So if we're going to explain it in terms of causality, we've got to explain it in terms of formal and final causality. Formal causality being, our ability to have ideas about the world, and final causality being our ability to act purposefully in the in the world. These are the types of causes related to conscious experience. Now, I'm not trying to create a dualism between mind and matter here, between conscious experience and the brain. Um, at least not a substance dualism where we've got these two entirely separate um, things, matter, stuff, and consciousness or soul or whatever. I'm just pointing out that there is at least an apparent dualism. Um, you can experiment on my brain all day, but you're never going to taste and see and smell what I taste and see and smell from the inside. So certainly, I'm not denying a relationship between the neural matter up here and my conscious experience. There's obviously a relationship, a correlation. But when we get into causation, we can't use scientific evidence to prove that the brain causes consciousness. Um, because consciousness isn't mechanical. By definition, it's experiential. It's not something you stand back from and observe and measure. It's another form of experience altogether. Uh, Certainly, we can learn much about consciousness by studying the brain, um, but causality is a metaphysical issue, and um, it should be remembered that there are many types, or at least four types of causality. Um, and to reduce consciousness only to efficient causation is to ignore these other forms of causation that we experience every day. Um, I wanted to make this video. I had an idea about doing it before I did, and then I carried through that idea. Is this not evidence of formal and final causation? Um, if we are fundamentalist, reductionistic materialists, we could try to explain away formal and final causation and reduce them both to efficient causation. But I think that's a very difficult task that I've not yet seen accomplished. I'd be willing to discuss the possibility of accomplishing it with you, but I think I want to avoid a dualism here, but at the same time point out that we're in tricky metaphysical territory here, and we can't just make an appeal to the authority of empirical science in order to explain consciousness. Um, we need to be radically empirical in the sense in which I described it in my last video response to you, and recognize that experience is primary. The measurements we make of matter, the scientific experiments we conduct, they all take place within experience. And so from my point of view, experience is the basic metaphysical category, not matter. We don't begin with matter. We begin with experience. Or at least that's my point of view. So, when it comes to the place of spiritual experience and all this, we don't even have to use this word spiritual. I think that's the sticking point for you and probably a lot of others, a lot of other materialists, because to say spiritual seems to put you already in opposition to the material world. And I don't deny that matter and mind are deeply related. They have to be. I think scientific experiment, neuroscience has shown that conclusively, that there is a relationship which exists between the two. But the exact metaphysical nature of that relationship cannot be answered by scientific empiricism alone. We need to probe deeper, and probing deeper means paying attention to all types of experience, whether it be sensory and rational experience, which are both important, or intuitive, contemplative, meditative experience. All of these, aesthetic experience, artistic experience, musical experience, all of these are relevant when it comes to the nature of reality. Because certainly not all of reality can be reduced to what we experience with our five senses or with our rational, verbal, descriptive minds. There's something deeper than that, that a lot of spiritual so-called traditions have explored, and it's that deeper side of life that also goes under the name of religion. But certainly there are poorly expressed and dogmatic forms of religion, just as there are poorly expressed dogmatic forms of materialism and science. And we have to be careful whether we're using either perspective in order to get a sense for the nature and scope and meaning of reality. So, yeah, thanks for your video. Thanks for watching, and I hope we can engage each other a bit more deeply about this issue. So, take care.